We are live. Hello, everyone. It has been a very long time since I have done any live shows, and I chose today to do it when no one will be awake, when my lighting is horrible, and I put my hair in a bun. So why? Why am I doing it this way? And that's what we're going to talk about. I'm Jenn Hayward from The Jenn Hayward Show. And today I have a guest, GeeGee from Zambia, and we're going to be talking to her, but I'll let her just say howdy real quick, and then I'm going to start a story of why we're talking today. GeeGee, you want to say howdy, introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Geralda. For my friends, GeeGee. Well, you're all my friends, so you can call me GeeGee. So it's nice to meet you.
Excellent. And so I'm going to give a little history of GeeGee and just a teeny bit of me. So those who know, I'm a comedian and an author. I can't believe we actually have a couple people up watching. So howdy. If you make a comment, by the way, and you're watching from anywhere but my personal page, your comment can come up and we can answer it. If you're on my personal page, I cannot see it until later on, but I'll still answer it. So as everyone knows, I started Connectv in February after the loss of Go For It. And we sort of went through this. There's a lot of advantages to what we were doing, but who knew that I was going to go through pretty much a 6-month depression? And by I say who knew, everybody knew. A lot of stuff happened this year and there was a lot of grieving to do. So when I was in Zambia, I was there for 8 weeks, which tells you a little bit already of how like my hard year is certainly a lot better than a lot of people. And I don't do that comparison to deny myself my own feelings and processes, but I say that to understand that you can't go abroad and see poverty like you do without it affecting you and allowing you to have that little bit of gratitude. So while I was there with my friend Sarah, we did a little touristy things and we met GeeGee and her lovely partner who's from Serbia. And GeeGee has the personality of a young Jenn and Sarah combined, I would say, like a go-getter, a great personality, just jumped out of the bushes and said, I like you, we're going to be friends. And we have been. And I can tell you a lot about GeeGee, but I'll let her slowly go into that. So she's going to do a show for Connectv. Part of what I was there doing is trying to give a better voice to people who don't have one. You guys are kind of sick of hearing my voice, I'm sure. No, you're not. You love me. But the whole point was to take some of the lessons and the people that we've met and give them a platform. So GeeGee is one of the first from Zambia. We have about 4 shows starting in Zambia and focusing on that right now because there are some great, but here's the thing. Not all the shows are going to be about Zambia. Isn't that funny? This show is going to be about and aptly mental health. And so when we asked GeeGee, what kind of show would you like? She's like, oh, mental health is a global problem. And I'm like, she is so right. So we had actually organized her to interview me yesterday to give her shot, just to do some practice. And I happened to have a very bad day and I couldn't go on because I had tears down my eyes and my eyes were red over nothing more than cognitive distortions. And I recognize that, but that doesn't change the facts. So I said, let's do it today. And I'm going to interview you. So what you are actually seeing is an introduction to GeeGee to what she's going to do. So I hope people watch this and give some feedback on the type of interviews they'd like to see GeeGee do. So that is the preamble for why we're doing it this way. So GeeGee, tell me a little bit about you and growing up in Zambia and, you know, what brought you to us, Sarah and Jenn, in this weird time. That's a lot. Let's start a little slower. Tell me about growing up in Zambia.
Yeah, well, where do I start from? Well, growing up here has been fun, obviously. I love my country. It drives me crazy, but I love it. I bet each and every one of us, our countries just drive us crazy. But you know how it goes. Home is home. And coming to meet you guys. So Miloan, my partner, wanted, I think that was about, a year plus ago, or maybe a year. Okay, let me just say a little under a year. He talked about wanting to see cheetahs and all that stuff. And in my mind, I was hoping that Mundawanga in Lusaka, here right here in Zambia, I was hoping that Mundawanga had some cheetahs. I don't know where I got that from, but well, I realized that it hadn't, so we forgot about it. And Miloan has always been very big on surprising me. He's always the one that goes an extra mile. So I said, "Oh, let me try to shock him. Let me surprise him." And I decided to put a blindfold on him when we were in Livingston, and took him to the Mukunu Big Five. And while we're at it, as Milan was waiting his 10-minute blindfold on, I saw this chatty lady. She was very chatty, and she's just going on and on and on and on, chatting away. Obviously, that was you. You were with Sarah, and I don't know, something about you struck me. You seemed very positive and enthusiastic, and I say to myself, I like this woman. And then after a while, when when it was his turn now, after you guys walked the lions, I think you walked the lions, and then it was time for you guys to walk the cheetahs. And well, Milan had his blindfold off, and you kept on just chatting away. And I said, I like you. And you said, oh yeah, I think you said I like me too, or something like that. And we started laughing about it. That is how come we got to meet. And I remember how this whole mental health issue came about. We're talking about how I would one day want to change careers because my specialty is people and I love people, and me wanting to maybe be an actress, talk show host or something. He said, oh, actually, Sarah she does this stuff. We can always arrange. And we talked about how we discussed what we talk about for, I think, weeks. Then eventually we landed on mental health because I struggled with that a lot in the past, and I still struggle with it. I've just learned how to manage it. And here we are.
And here you are. Well, I mean, a couple things is one. So Sarah and I at times are collectors, I would say. And meaning we see someone and we're like, hey, want to, right? And so we had two other people, especially if they're alone. So we ended up hanging with two people we just met at different places. Now, the reason we didn't invite you along was because you were there with your lovey-dovey, and you are clearly doing lovey-dovey things. And we knew that so I kind of assumed I might hear from her, I might not. We walked away. And then you were already on my Facebook, but I'm very bad with names. And I was like, hey, who's this lady commenting on my stuff? Cool, right?
Actually, you gave me your Facebook. You gave me your Facebook when we were at Mukuni Big Five, because I remember your phone was off. We couldn't exchange numbers, and you say, hey, let me give you my Facebook and send me a friend request.
Yeah, and then I forgot your name because that's just what I do, right? I barely remember my husband's name. I just said, hey, dude.
Yeah, I get you. I totally forgot your name. It was Millibird that actually just reminded me to say, hey, you're supposed to send Jane a friend request, and Miloan obviously was just loving Sarah. They bonded. You and I bonded. Miloan and Sarah bonded more.
Well, of course. So this is what ended up happening for everyone else. So if you want to believe in all the good things in the world, is those who followed our journey saw that Sarah and I last 3 days weren't good in Zambia for her last 3 days. We almost died, and we're dealing with a harassing tour operator, which, by the way, Zambia well done. The tourism Minister of Tourism dealt with it the same day that we were getting harassing calls over a dispute, and I was very impressed how it was handled. But nonetheless, our minds were not on anything really positive. You know, we were grabbing all the good things out of her trip and things, but it really marred it, right? On that last day to be dealing with that, when we were supposed to actually, and be honestly, be working and plotting and doing some really good things for the fundraising. Nonetheless, we drove down. We're both exhausted because, you know, of the almost dying thing and all that. And we show up, and you showed up the exact same time at the airport. So GeeGee was dropping off.
That was actually the third time we bumped into each other at the airport. Yes. That was the third time. The second time we bumped into each other was at the bank. Remember?
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, because we bumped each other at the bank. But then the airport was just such a weird, because it was just and then it would just sort of change the spirit, right? So now for some reason, again, I don't process information as quickly. And I got that, well, hang on, GeeGee's here. And then you were like, yeah, I live in Mazabuka. And somehow I missed that when we first started talking, because like, who lives in Mazabuka except for nuns in my brain, because that's, you know, my experience. Yeah, and Pamela. Yeah, exactly. So the people that I met are who live in. So we're like, you want to ride back? And she's like, heck yeah, I was going to take a bus the next day. And so it was a very interesting. So I got to hear some of your conversations. Sister Rose was driving, who was also exhausted. She was with us on all those trips, except for the one we almost died. But she drove around Livingstone thinking Sarah and I had died for 3 hours because we were late and we had no way to contact her. So she was exhausted, and there she was, and there you were. And you very much needed someone to talk to. You know, you had just had this epic week, and I fell asleep, and it was just like literally you had the full confidence of Sister Rose, and it was just such a kismet time because she's like a sponge. Do you know what I mean? Like she can listen to anyone, and she can, and you just feel so good. So I invited GeeGee over to the convent. And I guess I'll tell this story, GeeGee, and then we'll go back to questions because it's too funny. So I invited her, and she says, I said, what? She says, well, I'm on the keto and I want no carbs, no sugar. And I said, okay. Now that's not a thing that a lot of people in Zambia do, no carbs. I mean, literally your staple food is a giant thing of carbs that goes on your plate, right? So I go to the store and I figure, okay, I'm going to do stuffed pepper stuffed with ground beef and some cheese, you know, typical keto type thing. And then I'm making it, and Sister Rose is running late that day. And I told the other nuns we had a guest coming, and they're like, yay. And then little Christabel, most adorable woman I've ever met, walks in the kitchen and she goes, what else are you making? And I was like, I'm just making this and a salad. She said she didn't want any carbs. And they're like, no, that won't do. You have a guest coming in Zambia. So she goes, go sit down. And she put on this entire spread. So GeeGee, of course, then goes and eats the entire spread. So
oh my God, it was so much. I was stunned. It was so nice.
It was so,
and the not having done that, I just couldn't say no, Jane. The food was great also.
Well, I know, and it's just so funny. So from a Zambian, the nuns were like, you have set us up for failure, lady. Get out of my kitchen. And I was like, I was being Canadian, adapting to the guests. And they're like, the guests can have that, but we're going to have potatoes too. And Shima. And through that night, you know, we had a nice night. But when you left, you said something that impacted my entire worldview. And you said you have never had a night that peaceful. And that was when it came into my brain. I always thought it was just blanketly the country of Zambia, which is still a great country, absolutely. But I got to see some of the negatives too, just like in any country, you know, when you go enough times. But the experiences I've had with the sisters, and then I brought Sarah to have, and then she's, yes, Jen, you are onto something. These women have something. So we assumed it was a cultural divide. And then you come, who is from Zambia and had the exact same experience. So I said, nope.
Yeah, and I think that night we actually talked about how it's very interesting the amount of what's the word for it? What can I say? Like we are very much prejudiced towards the nuns, and everybody just wants to avoid them. And it's so peaceful with them. It's so meaningful, and you can actually have normal conversations with them. And you know, because most times when I see a nun, maybe I'm in the store and a nun walks up to me, I'll be like, don't do that. Like, don't talk to me. And then I think I remember rehashtagging about how I wanted to be a nun as a kid. That was like one of my first ambitions, and I really wanted to be a nun. And having that conversation with the nuns and yourself over dinner and after over dessert and all that stuff, it was very meaningful to me. It was very peaceful because it answered so many questions. Because for a long time I was kind of guilty about that. I think I mentioned that. Yeah.
Well, and isn't that the thing, is that when you actually sit down, I mean, because from an Indigenous Canadian standpoint, Catholicism is not very popular right now. And so people are very confused when they hear that a radical feminist is hanging out with a bunch of nuns. And I said, well, I have to say, they're probably more feminist than most people I know, because they don't, particularly Rose, there's no judgment. There's no, you know, sometimes the ideologies don't match, but when you get down to it, it's a lot of the same stuff. And so I think you gave me a real gift there, that what I was experiencing was unique, that it wasn't just me having a mental breakdown and saying, hey, these are nice people. It's really, there's some really good work. And
It's so real. You
so
cannot
good.
explain.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot explain it. There aren't words to it. It's so pure. When you walk in their premises, there is something happens. Your soul, it's at ease. You see yourself in a way that you haven't. It's so pure, the environment, and they are so wonderful because me and Milowan, we're all lovey-dovey and kissing all over, like just kissing each other. And Rose was just watching. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm waiting for her to scold me, and she's not doing it.
Well, yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, she'll scold me. More so if I'm being a little loud, or like there's time. Like she knows me inexplicably. She read my book, and my book is called "Jesus Loves a Crazy Horny Feminist." And in 2016, she read my book. Yeah, and she said, "Wow, you are a breath of fresh air," because of how authentic or honest I was. And then after 2 weeks of living with me, when she was my roommate, then she said, "Your husband is a saint." So I mean, she's just a real regular person, but there is something special. And so you gave me and Sarah a gift that it is. So we are doing some things, and we're trying to bring.
I think I just, in a nutshell, Jane, you've got to admit, I made you realize that you're not so crazy.
Yeah, no, it's it. I mean, I'm always crazy, and that's a good thing. But no, in this regard, I'm actually following a path of how I think we should all be living more in community, helping each other, less ingrained on the money things, but still enjoying great treats. Like I learned that. So my very first year at the convent, they I kept trying to buy groceries, and like I'd buy because I'm wanting to contribute. And Rose, about a couple of weeks into it, last time I was there, 5 weeks, Rose sat me down. She's the head nun, and said, "Jen, you're kind of offending everyone by buying groceries. They think that they're failing you as a host." And I said, like, I'm here for 5 weeks. I want to be a good guest. And so they're like, you can't go and just buy groceries. So I knew that rule. But the funny thing was, I was worried about being a bad guest. They were worried about being a bad host. And in the end, what I learned was they don't want me going and buy things they're already providing for me. But they don't buy anything nice for themselves. No cakes, no cookies. So when I'm there, I just, I show up. There is no shortage. It was 40 degrees every day. I needed ice cream. So I made sure that we always had plenty. So they enjoy the little extras, but they always put everyone else first. But not them. Like they still put themselves as individuals, to take respite. I have seen Sister Rose pull someone from their duty if she thinks they're getting too stressed out and things like that, like to reground yourself. And I mean, what is the number one thing I say when I'm there to her? Sister Rose, you're working too hard, and we're working on things there. So anyway, the whole point was, out of this, there will be some shows coming out of the convent. We are coming back. We will be bringing tours through there because we really feel that this is an experience of a lifetime, to spend about 4 days, at the school, at the different things, maybe with the women doing pottery, basket weaving, the water walk, and then going for 4 days of adventure. And I mean, how Canadian and privileged can that, or Western or European or whoever comes, is that we give you that taste of social, of asset-based community development, but then recognize the privilege enough. You've come all this way. Now let's go do some, see the animals, see the water. And it's, and understanding that a lot of people in Zambia cannot even afford that. And that is something that when we do this, we are bringing every dollar. I don't take a cent. Sarah doesn't take a cent. Every dollar we bring through this tour that we're going to do, or through videos through you guys, that eventually, like your show starts, it gets monetized. We're not taking money from that. We've made a decision that this is sort of our giving back, our because you guys have the stories that need to tell and launching. And I mean, I know what the wages are like there, right? So I know little goes a long way. So in getting GeeGee started, in getting Evans, he's the 9-year-old stand-up comic, and getting the young pre-nuns, I know there's a word, posthumous, anyway, the ones who are very young and starting, and giving them a platform. These are stories that I believe should be told, and that people need to listen to. And so, GeeGee, scale of 1 to 5, how excited are you to become a talk show host?
On a scale of 1 to 5, can I give 5.5?
You may, yes, you may. And it's you're a talker, lady. You're a Jenn, but you're intelligent. You're educated. You also know that some days suck for you too. I mean, Doesn't matter where you are in the world, mental health affects everyone. Now, I saw it less, in the ground, because how do you separate depression from true poverty? I don't know. Because the more impoverished I saw people, the less,
The more depressed they were.
yeah, and the less depressed that I saw, and that has a lot to do with you have little time to really sit down and deal with depression when you're out there selling water just to feed your family for pennies a day.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean
that's
once they
right
stop
there.
that, they've got
That
so
is
much unpacking to do. Yeah. Unpacking
that's
meaning.
right there. That
Yeah.
is very true. I mean, this is a man, or this is a woman who goes out there to go and sell crops of maize, or to go and sell water, or just anything, and they get home, they're so exhausted, they haven't the time to focus on their mental health.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's something that is supposed to be tackled. We are all supposed to tackle it, because this mental health issue, it's a global pandemic. It does not peak. It can go with any race. It can go with any tribe. It does not peak whatsoever. Anybody can have it. The rich, the poor, middle income. It just does not choose. It happens to all of us.
Well, and what happened with, I know people are like, it's so long ago. It's not. Colonization, well, it happened a long time ago. We've seen the effects in Canada. We've seen the effects when I was in Zambia. We've seen the effects anywhere I went in Kenya. And it's still there. And so what colonization did was also bring alcohol into communities that didn't have that. And so it basically took away culture, rights, identity, and introduced substances to forget about it. And that is a big part. Addictions is a huge part of mental health, because the addiction becomes, but there's always something that begins the addiction. I would say, I'm not an expert in this field. I'm an expert in being addicted to things, but I've been sober for a bit now, and don't gamble. And there's a lot of things that I had to give up because.
Congratulations regarding that.
Well, yeah, and it was always the underlying things that I had to address. And sometimes it's just chemical, right? It is just, but there are things that we can do to get ourselves out. But I can't hold other people in their mental health to the place I am, right? Because I was not always here. And so what is success for me now is different than before. I used to weigh 400 pounds and be suicidal all the time. Just making it through the day was like people would high five me. Now people have so much expectation. I've just finished this bankruptcy. I feel a lot of pressure now. And at times I have way more stress than I ever did in my worst days of mental health, because we do that to ourselves. We all want to get a little bit ahead. It doesn't matter if you're in Canada or Zambia, and I think that's why I love the nuns so much. They want society to get ahead, not their individual.
Yeah.
They want to make money for others.
This is a very hard place to get to. There is so much contentment amongst them. It's so real. It's if all of us can get to a place where we are as content as they are, that it would reduce the mental health rates, or rather, it would, like, immensely, because those people are immensely content, Jenn.
Well, that's it. So, I'm going to give small examples between Canada and Zambia, right? So in Zambia, there's a day that, the internet went down. And I won't lie, it sucked. I had meetings. Even my backup internet went down. I think you remember, I was like, I need my internet, right? In Canada, that happened. We had a 1 day down. All of Rogers, we only have 2 internet providers. One of them went down. And people were seriously finding out who had internet and going to their house. We are so addicted to being connected, whether it's work or whatever the case may be, and legitimately so in many cases. But it was really nice to say, I guess I'm just going for a walk now, right? Like, I don't want to always have disruptions, but it was just the difference in attitude. No one was freaking out in Zambia when something went down, right? Yes, that's why we get the Zambia time or Africa time or whatever. But it's okay sometimes for things to go a little slower, right? It's okay to not have a midnight run to McDonald's.
Sometimes slow is good, because when you come to think about it, Jenn, prior, when the internet wasn't really such a big deal, I think the mental health issues were less as opposed to now.
Yeah.
Because when power goes out, or if your router is connected to a plug, or maybe your battery dies, or just the internet just goes away, we all panic. I personally panic. I've got to have internet 24/7. It's a mandate. It doesn't matter if I'm working or if I'm not working, or if I'm texting or if I'm online. I've just got to have it.
Yeah, your generation is the worst for it, but it's not the worst. It's just that you have grown up with this as your standard.
That's how we've grown up. That's how we've grown up.
Yeah.
You gotta have it.
Yeah, I guess, when I was saying cultural, it's not always cultural, because there is that generational divide on that too. But for me, when I'm in Canada, I get, I need my internet. But when I ran out there, everyone was like, I guess we'll just do other things, right? So it certainly helps. So back to your show, which is called, tell them the name of your show. It's going to be?
It's gonna be The Mental Lens with GeeGee.
The Mental Lens with GeeGee. And so GeeGee I will not be on with her. I'm the talker. I'm more of a interview you, but tell stories. Like I'm aware of her.
Very quiet. She's very quiet.
Yeah. Oh, very. Yeah. But GeeGee is going to be really into choosing a topic or a guest. We're going to get as many as we can. And then we're going to really pump her out. We're going to put some investment into boosting your post. We want to get you a really good following. We're starting your own Facebook page as well. So it'll be shown live through your own Facebook, through ours, things like that. And we want everyone to support GeeGee because she's not just because it might bring her some income, things like that, because this is a really interesting way to discuss mental health, is to do it from the global lens and to be able to have someone,
because I have experienced this firsthand. So there are so many things that I want all of you to know that I wish I had known when I was suffering with this whole mental health, because that was a season in my life where it was just hard for me to get out of bed. It was very hard. I couldn't focus. I couldn't read a book. I couldn't read 3 pages in a book. It was just so hard. And there are so many tricks that I have learned now that I'd like to share with all of you. Acceptance, learning how to tackle this, and understanding that some mental issues just never go away. You've just got to learn how to handle it, and not being ashamed about certain things. Learning to ask for help, being able to see a shrink, being able to invest in your mental health. These are things that some people don't like, most people don't like talking about, especially in my community, the Black community, because we like to say, well, mental health, that is white people stuff. But well, I have struggled with mental health. I struggled with it a lot in the past, and I'm still struggling with it, except that now that I'm older and I understand myself better and I know myself better, and I've come to accept what I'm dealing with, I handle it better. But hey, we've got this. We're gonna find our way through this. We'll talk about this openly without any masks. This is the only way to go about it.
It is. And you have such a passion and a gift for talking to people. So the big ask I'm going to ask for people who watch this initial one and why we're doing it this way, we will likely be pre-recording her videos in the future and then airing them just because of the time difference. However, we may find, hey, this time works on Sundays. We don't know. But we're going to figure that. And we're working on format. So right now, if anyone would like a topic covered by GeeGee, put it in the comments and we'll get it, or just send us a message. I will be sending her page out. I will co-admin it so that we can get everyone on my page to like it as well. And this is an important topic. And she's breaking down barriers. And she just mentioned something that's really important, is that, in her community, and I don't mean Zambia, but in the Black community, from her lens, and I've heard it before, from marginalized communities, is that it's a white person thing. It's an elite person thing, or a rich person. It's someone who has the luxury to
rich
be
people thing. Yeah, rich people thing or white people thing, not a Black people thing. Black people don't get mental health issues. When you get mental health issues, your family will ask you to shut up. I know for a fact that when some of my family members begin to follow my page, when it's up and running, or when they see this, they're not gonna be happy about it. But hey, these are things that we need to talk about. These are things that are real, you know, because mental health is different. Some people get it as when they are younger. Some people get it even at an older stage, and some people are born with it.
Yeah.
So these are things we cannot run away from, guys. It's normal. It's like it's like having diabetes or maybe having high blood pressure. You know, it's normal. These are things that we should talk about openly. This is the only way we can find a way to tackle these things in the same manner that we talk about HIV and AIDS. We should talk about it in the same vein, or COVID, or Ebola, or all those or other diseases. The same way we should talk about mental health. It's very crucial. You need to be able to manage your mental health in order for you to acquire an education, in order for you to handle a relationship, in order for you to be close to your loved ones and assess things and look at life in a way that is bright. That part of your mental health has to be sane. You have to manage it. Your job. That's the only way you go about your job, in a way that, you know, you're just productive. It's very important, guys. We need to tackle that.
Excellent. Well, here's the thing. I'm really excited. We're working on timelines later today. I'll let GeeGee know sometimes. Again, she works during the day, and when she gets home, it's actually not so bad now that I think about it. But she's like, we'll do it in the evening. But for some reason, I had it backwards, that your evening was my middle of the night, but we're actually behind you. So we'll find the time. And we're going to start making a list. So again, topics or people that you think she should interview, put it down there. We'll try and make it happen. And you'll be looking for more information. So GeeGee right now is our main show we're going to have. Sarah and Josh will probably be bringing theirs back, and we're really focusing on the international angle and what are the shows that we haven't seen before. What are the voices that we haven't heard from? And I want to make sure that that gets out to at least my network so that they can experience a little bit of the blessings that I've had throughout my life in meeting people like GeeGee. So GeeGee, I want to thank you so much for coming. I'm going to end the broadcast. You can stay on after. And for anyone else, I want to see those comments light up. All right. And feel free to share this. I think some really good things are going to happen. All right. Thanks so much. GeeGee, any last words?
All right, Jane. Thank you very much for having me. And everybody, have a good day. Have a good morning. Have a good night. Thank you.
All right. And I'm ending the broadcast.